Everyone, good morning. You have reached the Human K channel. Today, we look at the life and work of Dr. George Kelly, a famous psychologist whose ideas have changed the way we think about how people think and act. Let's start with his past. Kelly was born on a farm in Kansas to religious parents who put a lot of importance on helping people who have less than you do. His early schooling was very different, and both his parents and his teachers had a big impact on how he learned. Kelly's journey took him to Park College, where he got a bachelor's degree in physics and math in 1926. But he became more interested in social problems, which led him to a job in psychology. After working for a short time as an engineer, he taught at a labor college, the American Banking Association, and the University of Kansas, among other places. Kelly started an academic path in 1929 that would have a big impact on his ideas. He got a prestigious fellowship to go to the University of Edinburgh, where he got a Bachelor of Education and then a PhD in psychology. Kelly thought of people as scientists who make their own theories to understand and predict what will happen in their lives. These personal structures are different ways of looking at the world. His main idea is that how we think about the world and how we expect things to happen affects how our minds work. Kelly's theory is made up of 11 parts, or corollaries, that expand on his main idea. These corollaries shed light on different parts of how we think and how they affect how we see ourselves and others. The first corollary is construction. It says that because similar things happen over and over again, we can figure out how similar things will happen in the future. Our past experiences shape our views of similar future events. As we move on to individuality, this corollary tells us that people have different ways of seeing things. Based on their own events and points of view, everyone builds their own unique view of the world. Organization focuses on how we put our ideas into patterns based on what we think is similar and what is different. We make mental models to help us organize and make sense of the things we learn. Our ideas are two-sided, and dichotomy shows that. For example, if we have an idea about honesty, we must also have an idea about being dishonest. Our ideas are opposites, which helps us tell the difference between different things. Choice shows that we have the power to pick the option for each concept that works best for us. We choose the choice that gives us the best chance of knowing how things will turn out, taking into account our own needs and preferences. Range tells us that our ideas may work for different people or situations, or they may only work for certain people or situations. Some ideas can be used in many situations, while others can only be used in a few. Experience shows how important it is to keep trying our ideas against what we learn in life. We check to see if our models are still helping us understand and make sense of the world around us. Modulation shows how we can change our ideas and beliefs based on what we learn. When we're in settings that are new to us, we change and adapt our ideas to include the new information we've learned. Fragmentation admits that our system of constructs may sometimes have subordinate constructs that are contradictory or inconsistent. We may have ideas that are at odds with each other, which can make us feel confused or tense inside. Commonality is the idea that even though our own ideas are unique, people in the same group or country may have similar ideas. When people in a group have the same values and beliefs, they can work together to make things. Lastly, sociality talks about how we have a natural desire to figure out how other people think and predict what they will do. We change our own behavior in response, taking into account what we know about how others think and how we deal with them. Personal construct theory is complicated, but these 11 corollaries make it easier to understand how it works. They show how our unique structures affect how we see, guess, and talk to other people. Next, let's look at Kelly's positive view of people. Kelly says that we are rational humans who can choose our own paths. We are not limited by ideas we had at one point in our lives, by unconscious conflicts, or by our biological drives. Kelly thought that our goal should be to define a set of concepts that allow us to correctly predict what will happen. Now, let's talk about how Kelly figured out who someone was. Kelly used different ways to figure out a person's personality. He took people at their word, had them write sketches of themselves, and used the role construct repertory test. The role construct repertory test helped him find important differences in a person's life and see how they put themselves together. People with a high brain complexity are better able to predict how other people will act. They are quick to see how they are different from others, have more empathy, and show less worry and instability. People with low cognitive complexity, on the other hand, find it hard to deal with inconsistent knowledge when trying to understand others. Kelly's work also brought attention to the idea of attributional complexity. People with high attributional complexity see other people's actions as more complicated and varied than people with low attributional complexity. But it's important to remember that Kelly's work hasn't always been praised. Some critics say that his theories leave out common ideas like motivation and feeling and focus mostly on the logical parts of how people work. Scholars have also disagreed about Kelly's use of a sample of people that isn't representative of the whole. Even with these problems, Dr. Kelly's contributions to psychology have had a big impact on how we think about human constructs and the complexity of thought. Now, we'll look at some of the most interesting parts of the study done on Dr. Kelly's ideas, paying special attention to the role construct repertory test and what it found. Let's get started. Using the role construct repertory test, researchers have found interesting things about how personal constructs work and how they affect our lives. First, it has been found that the way we see ourselves doesn't change much over time. These ideas, which shape how we see and make sense of the world, tend to stay with us throughout our lives. Also, the study shows that we are attracted to people whose ideas are similar to ours. When it comes to friendship, we tend to choose people who are like us in a lot of ways. In the same way, couples who have similar ideas about how the world works are happier together. The role construct repertory test has also helped us understand how personal ideas play a part in mental illnesses. Studies have shown, for example, that people with schizophrenia have stable ideas about things but have trouble with stable ideas about people. On the other hand, delinquents often see themselves more in media action stars than in real people. When it comes to how hard it is to think, the study has found some very interesting links. People who do well on the cognitive complexity test have certain qualities. They tend to be less anxious and show more than the standard 5 personality traits. Also, people with high brain complexity are very good at predicting how others will act. This skill comes from their better understanding of how complicated people are. People with high cognitive complexity often have middle to liberal political views, which is interesting. They see more things and are more open to different points of view. Research has also shown that people with high cognitive complexity have had a wider range of childhood events, which helps them understand the world in many different ways. People with high cognitive complexity also tend to deal with the stresses of college life better, showing more resiliency and adaptability. Let's learn more about the idea of attributional complexity. Research has shown some interesting things about this concept. People who are high in attributional complexity tend to think that other people's actions have complicated reasons behind them. They care more about other people and understand them better, and they notice minor signs of racism. Research on Kelly's ideas has given us important information about how people think and act. It shows how much personal constructs, cognitive complexity, and attributional complexity affect how we see things and connect with others. That's all we'll say about the most important study findings about Kelly's ideas. I encourage you to explore further to deepen your understanding. Thank you.